Start over. Good afternoon, members of Parliament, support staff, radio listeners, TV viewers, those following via social media, and members of the media. A blessed afternoon. Welcome to this meeting of the Committee of Parlatino Matters, number 2, for today, Wednesday, March the 4th, 2026. We have established a quorum of 5 members. Please stand for a moment of silence. Thank you. We have received notice of absence from the following committee members: MP Shamira Roseberg, MP Dimar Labega, and MP Omar Otley. Are there any notifications? Yes. MP Lewis.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, Khifid, to my colleagues here in this honorable house. Mr. Chairman, through you, I would just like to mention, I do not know if the Minister of Romy doesn't come into Phillipsburg, where we have a lot of tourists, and just in front of the temporary marketplace, the road is seriously, seriously damaged. Potholes can't done. I mean, come on, man. This is in the heart of town. This is Clem Labega Square. Is the minister not seeing this? Is his colleagues, his department not seeing this? This is bad for our reputation for our country, especially in the heart of town. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, MP Lewis. I do have 2 notifications myself. MP Waiver, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good afternoon to the Khifid, to honorable members of Parliament, to those listening and viewing via whichever media. Good afternoon. Just briefly, I just want to congratulate the St. Martin U20 football team, or soccer, depending where you're from, on what they did in, I believe they was in Costa Rica recently for the World Cup qualifying for the U20, and they did their best, and it's only progress from here on forward. So I just wanted to congratulate them. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, MP Waiver, and my congratulations go out to them also. Then a notification to the Minister of TIAT and the Department of LVV. In the past few days, I've realized that a lot of dead pigeons are on the ground in Phillipsburg and on our way to the parking. I don't know if it is a disease, a virus, or whatever it is going around, but that is something that maybe the LVV could look into with the Department of Health. And then another notification is concerning the running water on the main street in St. Peter's. It makes absolutely no sense to wash your vehicle because that road is always underwater for one reason or the other. So I'm asking if the Minister of Rami could actually look into that or even give an explanation to why that is in that manner. Thank you. The agenda points for this committee meetings are incoming documents, 2, advice regarding the number of members of Parliament representation in Parlatino committees, IS 394/2025-2026, dated on the 28th of November 2025. Agenda point 3, letter from Parlatino regarding first vice chairmanship of the Committee of Economic Affairs, Social Debt, and Regional Development Parlatino Committee, IS 393 2025-2026, dated November 26, 2025. And agenda point 4, updates on presentations by members of parliament who have attended or participated in Parlatino committee meetings and engagements in the second trimester of 2025, IS 699, 2025-2026, dated the 13th of February, 2026, and IS number 394-2025-2026, dated the 8th of November, 2025. And we go over to agenda point number 1, incoming documents. All members have received a document for incoming documents for the committee from IS 1 till 550 for this parliamentary year 2025-2026. This list consists of convocations for meetings, reports of meetings, minutes of meetings, and other documentation related to Parlatino. Are there any comments or proposals on the list as presented? To which member can I give the floor? None? Okay, so IS 393 will be handled under agenda point number 3. If not, the list and the proposal for handling as discussed are approved. We go over to agenda point number 2. Advice regarding the number of members of parliament representation in Parlatino committees, IS 394-2025-2026, dated November 28, 2025. On November 26, 2025, Parliament received a letter from MP La Cruz, myself, chairman of the committee, IS 394-2025-2026, dated the 28th of November 2025, with the request that a meeting of Parliament be convened to discuss the above-mentioned agenda point. On February 24th, 2025, Parliament received a letter from the Secretary of the Committees of Parlatino, Congress Member Sanchez Arredona, which was directed to the Secretary General of Parliament based on the communique from him updating Parlatino of the appointment of members of this body to the committees of Latin America and Caribbean Parliament on February the 6th. In this letter from Parlatino, the Secretary of the Committee refers to Article 49 of the Rules of the Latin American and Caribbean Parliament, which states, member parliaments shall join the committees they wish to participate in with 2 representatives prior notice and accreditation to the committee's secretariat. Said representatives shall stay in office for at least 2 years and shan't be removed by their representative parliaments unless special circumstances so require it. They may be re-elected or continue to serve as representatives if no notice stating otherwise is received. Committee members shall be appointed by their parliaments within 60 days from the regular assembly or within 30 days following the changes made in the national parliament that require the replacement or committee members. Each Congress may, if their rules or procedures permit it, and circumstances make it advisable, appoint more than 2 committee members, but their voting rights shall be limited to 2. If any one delegate was accredited, or if only 1 delegate attends, it shall accumulate to 2 votes. In earlier years, Parliament was a member of 11 Parlatino committees. Currently, the Parliament of St. Martin is members of all 13 Parlatino committees. In each committee, we have minimum 6 and a maximum 10 members. Based on aforementioned rule, Article 49, member parliaments join the committees they wish to participate in with 2 representatives who should stay in office for at least 2 years and who shan't be removed by their parliaments. Going forward, we should consider 1. If after the parliamentary election, we are aware that persons, members of parliament, will go on to become ministers, those who should not be appointed to be a member of a Parlatino committee. Point 2, according to this article, we should join the Parlatino committees with 2 representatives, as we only have 2 voting rights in the committee. We can be represented at a committee meeting with 2 delegate members or 1 delegate member who would then accumulate 2 votes. There is no need to establish the Parlatino committee every year at the start of the new parliamentary year. In our meeting of May 20th, 2025, we discussed agreed to the way forward that would be proposed to the Central Committee onwards. However, after internal discussions, it has been decided to rediscuss the proposal on the way forward as it regards to the composition of these Parlatino committees. To which member can I give the floor? MP Jansen Webster.
Good afternoon, and thank you, Mr. Chairman. With regards to what you have read just now, to summarize, what you're saying is that right now we can be up to 6 members in a committee, but only 2 participate in the meeting. Is that it? Can you please clarify for me?
No, MP Jansen. 2 members per committee, and if we have more, we still only have 2 votes. The part where I mentioned 6 is we have different committees in Parlatino, and some committees consist of from 6 to 10 members currently. I do have a proposal concerning the 2 members per committee and then a backup member. It is a proposal which I will share with the members, where we've divided the committees among those that are part of the committees from Parlatino, and I've paid attention to those that coincide with each other. For example, Asuntos Económicos, Deuda Social y Desarrollo Regional, Economic Affairs, Social Debt, and Regional Development, that once you are part of that committee in Parlatino and also part of the committee in Parliament, our Parliament, that is closest to that or deals with those topics, that you are part of that committee. So whatever is picked up in Parlatino is brought back to our Parlatino committee meetings here, and then to a committee meeting, for example, of TIAT, VRAMI, Justice, Education, etc. So that is a proposal that that I have before me. Are there any comments to that proposal? MP Waiver.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Having been part of Parlatino meetings as well, I think it's important that we put some structure to the meetings. So I think your proposal is in line with that. Quite often we go to meetings and you see the same delegates from the other countries are standard in certain committees, whereas there seems to be more of a rotation from St. Martin, and therefore some information is maybe lost as well. So I think this proposal is heading into the right, going to the right way. I would also like to ask or recommend that this is just also a draft proposal, but also that we take into consideration those that are actively members of the Parlatino committee that day, because here is, in this committee is where we actually update the public about what we've done and the meetings we have attended, you know? So I think it carries some weight that members that are, how you say it, part of this committee, that they also have, when you look at your proposal, that we take that into consideration as well. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, MP Waver. Will do. MP Janssen Webster.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I too would like to add that I have looked over your proposal, and I think that your proposal will make us work more efficiently when we travel, because we would be more dedicated to a specific commission, and by doing so, be able to come back and bring back the information better to the public in St. Martin about what we learned there and what we can implement here as well. So I really appreciate the proposal that you have brought forward.
Thank you, MP. If there are no other comments, I'd like to adjourn this meeting for, oh, 1 second, didn't see. MP Lewis, you have the word.
But I want to know how come, Mr. Chairman, you want to overpass me like this. All I want to say is you're doing a great job. That's all I want to say, MP. You're doing a great job when it comes to the Parlatino matters, that the people of St. Martin will actually know why their money and how it's being spent when their MPs go abroad, that we come back with something fruitful that will benefit this country. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, MP Lewis. I've always said, you're never going to say we wasting the people money. We are working, and you will see that a little lower down today with what we are going to present to the public that was done in the last part of the 2025 year. I'll adjourn this meeting for 2 minutes. Meeting adjourned. Thank you. Welcome back. So the point of proposal by MP Waiver will be added to the proposal brought forth by myself, and that will then be put together by our Griffier and will go to a CC to be voted upon for further handling. We go over to agenda point number 3. Letter from Parlatino regarding the vice chairmanship of the Committee of Economic Affairs, Social Debt, and Regional Development, Parlatino Committee, IS 393, 2025-2026, dated November the 26th, 2025. On November 26, 2025, Parliament received a letter from the President of Parlatino, Mr. Rolando Gonzalez Patricio, IS 393, 2025-2026. The letter reports that the Board of Directors approved by majority vote the decision to grant St. Martin the first vice presidency of the Committee of Economic Affairs, Social Debt, and Regional Development. This appointment recognizes the active participation and commitment of our Parliament within the region and provides St. Martin with an important opportunity to contribute to regional policy discussions and cooperation. This committee will have to propose a member of Parliament that is also a member of the Parlatino Committee for the first vice presidency of the Parlatino Committee of Economic Affairs, Social Debt, and Regional Development. To which member of Parliament can I give the floor? MP Lewis?
I am in favor to that proposal, that we propose you, Mr. Chairman, to be part of that, to be the vice chair of the committee. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, MP Lewis. MP Kutai?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd also like to piggyback off MP Lewis's statement. I second that and would be behind you for that as well. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. MP Waiver?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I also concur with my colleagues that we propose you as the vice chair of that committee.
Thank you, MP Waiver. MP Veronica Janssen-Webster?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I also agree that you become the vice chair of the committee.
Thank you, MP Janssen-Waiver. Webster. Why do I continue? Your husband sat with me. And his and MP Waiver's wife also. I thank my fellows for your trust and your vote in nominating myself as the vice chair of this committee. It shows that my hard work doesn't go in vain. Thank you all. We've also received notice for another chair that will be handled in a subsequent meeting. If there are no other comments, the advice will be sent to the Central Committee for further handling, and I hereby close this agenda point. We go over to agenda point number 4. Updates, presentations by members of Parliament who have attended or participated in Parlatino committee meetings and engagements in the second trimester of 2025. Dated IS 699-2026, dated February 13th, 2026, and IS 394-2026, 2025-2026, dated November the 28th, 2025. On February 13th, 2026, Parliament received a letter from my person, MP Francisco La Cruz, chairman of this committee, with a request that a committee of Parlatino matters meeting be convened to discuss the aforementioned agenda points. It is good to note that one of the recommendations in this report auditing public sector travel Parlatino membership of our General Audit Chamber was to require post-travel reporting for members of Parliament to promote transparency, accountability, and effectiveness. This was further discussed in of the Committee of Parlatino Matters on May the 20th, 2025. Okay. Who would like to start with their presentation? MP Viren Kutai, you have the word.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Good afternoon to my colleagues, those tuned in via social media. In our recent committee meeting for Parlatino, I was part of the Political, Municipal Affairs and Integration. Many discussion topics that were held within our conversation were around strengthening local democracy, urban development and services, citizen participation and accountability, local security and disaster risk management, social inclusion and integration, sustainable development and environment, capacity building and technical cooperation, and monitoring implementation. I say all these different points because most of all, we can relate to here in St. Martin when it comes to local governance reforms, finance and management, tax policy, public-private partnerships, housing policies, and I can go on and on. In terms of relating this meeting to St. Martin, we know we face coastal urban pressures, hurricane and climate risk. We are a tourism-driven economy with a small jurisdictional scale. We have cross-border coordination with the French and Dutch side, and we are pretty much also dependent on the Netherlands. Some priority areas I believe St. Martin should focus on, of course, for our local governance to improve responsive service delivery. I'm very sure that there have been much discussions on our disaster risk management from the time that we came into this governing coalition, and I'm sure that there will be further conversations on that. But the reality is as such, the funding reality. Every reform and program has a price tag. St. Martin must pair policy choices with concrete revenue-generating measures and financing strategies, such as reviewing and modernizing local taxes and fees. Of course, a conversation for another debate, but all applicable to St. Martin. It is well known St. Martin does not operate exactly like other Parlatino country members. Its constitutional status, size, and shared island arrangement create unique institutional arrangements. But despite these differences, there's much to learn from Parlatino's best practices, their finances, their disaster resilience, participatory governance, legislative harmonization. Any of these lessons should be adapted to our local and legal administrative realities and paired with realistic revenue-generating measures and financing plans. But of course, as I mentioned, I will definitely transcend this into our next budget debate because all in all, I understood that, of course, it all comes down to the funding. And our reality with funding is well known. That's it for me, Mr. Chair, and thank you very much for letting me present this.
Thank you, MP Kutai. Are there any questions for MP Kutai? No. We move on to MP Waiver.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. the committee I was part of the last time was energy and mining, where myself and Pilar Vega visited Chile. This was last year. And the discussion there was very interesting, especially what's going on right now globally with the war and everything like that when we talk about energy. And a lot of the world is or was talking about, when we were there, a lot of the countries were talking about hydro energy and how they're investing into that. Another conversation that was held at one of the events was a gentleman who actually is doing a lot of research with sargassum and how we can develop that into an energy source. And seeing the recent news that we're expecting a high volume of sargassum this year again, or this season, it's something that we really need to start looking at and who we can partner with. And the gentleman was very enthusiastic and saying that there's enough sargassum here to be able to generate enough energy to be able to, for instance, when we have the GB situation and so forth, that we have to look into alternative energy ways. And also seeing now with the war that's happening that the increase of the oil supply, definitely, and even other energy sources will definitely be going up. But hopefully we'll be able to find something sustainable. So I think when persons look at these travels, and I did do a press release, as I usually do when I do travel to Parlatino meetings or any meetings outside the country, I think we need to let the people know that these are conversations that we're having when we are traveling abroad, and to see with bigger countries as well and what is capable and what's possible that we can tap into when we talk about different sources, and now especially with the energy crisis and all that. So thank you, Mr. Chairman, for allowing me the time to briefly go into it. And of course, I went a little more in depth with the press release that I did a few months ago. So thank you, Mr. Chairman, for allowing me the time.
Thank you, MP Waver. Do we have any questions for MP Waver? We move on. MP Veronica Janssen-Webster.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I attended a meeting of the Commission of Agriculture, Animal Husbandry and Fisheries at the Igbo American and Caribbean Parliamentarian Forum on Food Security, October 22nd to 24th, 2025. I think one thing that stood out for me, and this meeting took place in Mexico, because the Parlatino joined the Igbo American and Caribbean Parliamentarians Forum. So it was like a joint forum with Parlatino meeting inside of it. And so what was interesting was, because it was Igbo American, you had representatives there from Spain and from Portugal, which are the two Igbo, so Iberian countries, former colonizers so of Latin America. Representatives were there, and you see where the Latin American countries have the same kind of relationship with the Netherlands that we have, where certain projects would be funded. And so I found that interesting to see that Spanish representatives and Portuguese representatives were there for this conference. So the conference was attended by myself and MP Doran, and general themes of the forum and the meeting were basically Sin País, Sin Maíz, no hay país, which means without corn, there is no country. And I just like that whichever meeting we went into, they would say, Sin maíz, no hay país. And there were meetings where they spoke specifically about the corn crops and how corn is one of the major crops for sustainability, in agricultural sustainability, food stability in the region. And there were, like, I think maybe 20 types and different colors of corn, etc. But it goes beyond that. It's not just the corn, but it's just that agriculture is important for the sustainability of every country, and developing agriculture in your country leads to food security. That's the bottom line. And the two main points that were discussed were the declaration of the Latin American and Caribbean Parliament in support of global and regional dialogues on responsible governance of water, and the second one, the Parlatino model law on healthy diets. When we look at the declaration of the Latin American and Caribbean Parliament in support of global and regional dialogues and responsible governance of water, we saw that Parlatino recognized the secure, equitable, and sustainable access to water as an essential pillar for the comprehensive development of peoples, and is crucial to ensuring food security and the livelihoods of families, farmers, in a context of growing social environmental vulnerabilities in Latin America and the Caribbean. And so they recognized that more than 733 million people worldwide are living with high or critical water stress. Potential global increase in water demand of 25%. Agriculture is responsible for 72% of global freshwater withdrawal. Water management is needed for food security. Food demand is estimated to increase by 50% by 2050, which will lead to 25% more fresh water needed. And the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations, the FAO, which was one of the organizers of this forum, they recommended a global dialogue on water tenure to handle responsible water governance. And also, since 2023, the United Nations launched the Water Action Agenda, and in that same year, FAO approved its biennial theme, Water Resource Management, for 4 stakes. And those 4 stakes are better production, better nutrition, a better environment, and a better life. And FAO developed 2 projects funded by Germany, which led to pilot projects being carried out in Senegal, Rwanda, Sri Lanka, and Thailand, but also in Colombia, in our region. And I think what's important with this is that you see where, so they're talking about the importance of water. I know that for farmers on St. Martin as well, water, having access also to water for their crops has been an issue that has been brought forward before. But you see where there was funding from Germany. So but we found out this in November, which was at the end of the 2-year span. Had we known about this, there would be ways how we could tap into this as well, being a part of Parlatino and as a part of the region. So we need to pay attention to these opportunities and make use of them. So continuing on with the basis, the declaration from Latin American and Caribbean parliaments, FAO has developed a broadly participatory program for Latin America and the Caribbean, where they have face-to-face sessions and exchange of experience. This is also something that we in St. Martin that we can participate in. Also recognizing that the importance of guaranteeing access, distribution, and quality of water to ensure the rights of life, dignity, food security, and work, etc., that's important. Also recognizing the transformation of agri-food systems and their direct link to prosperous economies and job creation, and the importance of prioritizing this issue on the agenda of parliamentary alliances in favor of SDG 2, zero hunger. So with all of that in mind, Parlatino urges national governments and parliaments in the region to actively participate in the global dialogue and regional dialogues on responsible water governance. So prioritize the issue of water scarcity in our agendas. And then the second part was the model law on healthy diets. And there the objective was primarily to establish a legal framework that allows each state to to design and adapt policies, plans, and programs to promote healthy diets among its entire population through 10 areas of action. And those 10 areas are promoting resilient and sustainable production of nutritious foods, promoting technical assistance, technologies, and financial and insurance incentives for families farming and artisanal and small-scale fishing, promoting measures to strengthen markets and food supply chains that are part of healthy diets, reducing food losses and waste, addressing the income constraints of populations with a special emphasis on women and minority groups to improve access to healthy diets, and considering food and nutrition education and prioritizing school feeding with nutritional foods. And then, so that my last slide, we continue with the last 5 points, which is promoting fiscal policies such as subsidies for the purchase of fruits and vegetables from family and local farms, tax reductions on foods that are part of healthy diets, encourage the implementation of policies and regulatory frameworks to reduce the supply and demand for ultra-processed foods, such as front of package nutritional warning labels on packaged foods, restrictions on the supply or sale of these foods in schools, or their advertising in the media and at sporting events. So to reduce, the unhealthy foods. And then contributing to the design of dietary guidelines for the population and promote healthy food environments. And lastly, providing food and nutritional education in food environments such as schools, communities, and workplaces. So when you look at these 10 objectives in the model law on healthy diets, there are some that we can pick out right away to implement here on St. Martin so that we can promote healthy diets and healthy food for our population. So that is my presentation on what was done, and I thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, MP. That was clear. Are there any questions for MP Jansen Webster? No. The following speaker, MP LCJ Lewis.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't have any questions nor a presentation, but what I can say, our last Parlatino meeting, I think we were part also of the food security, and I can say this. If St. Martin is not prepared, because we have a whole structure, a whole governmental structure, Prime Minister goes down, 15 parliamentarians, etc., but we don't have nothing other than the tourism industry. With what is going on in this world today with regards to the war, our airspace already is already being polluted. What is going to happen tomorrow if we are thousands of miles away from the Netherlands? We can't get any loans otherwhere. We can't do anything else. We are choked. We're in a chokehold where we can't do nothing anywhere else but with the Netherlands. What will happen if we have that interference tomorrow? The US is where we get most of our produce, and they're the ones that are erupting all the problems right now in this world. So St. Martin, as a government, as a parliament, have something to think about. The people of this country have to see that our economy is at great risk, especially when it comes to food security. Sometimes you go into certain stores and you see that the shelves are already empty because of delays in shipments, etc. What would happen? We no longer have the Great Salt Pond. We don't have sugar cane. We no longer have cotton. We no longer have none of those things. What will we offer our people, again, if the disconnect comes between the Netherlands and St. Martin? Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, MP Lewis. And I'd like to add to that, seeing that the system that we had before, where most of us would be part of most committees in Parlatino, we have, in one way or the other, contributed to everything that is presented today by all the other members. And like the proposal and the discussion between MP Duran, the Minister of VSA, and myself concerning food safety, we are still awaiting the minister's plan, how to move forward with what we proposed to him then. Today, like I mentioned, this is no way, form, or sort just my contribution to the meeting. This is collective, and we've all been part of this one way or the other, and it is the model law on sustainable marine coastal community tourism that was presented last year in Parlatino and adopted, and today I am bringing it here to the floor. At the end of this, a letter with the law, the model law, will be sent to the Minister of TIAT and the Minister of RAMI for their consideration and feedback on it, and see what and how we could move forward with this model law. Today we recognize the model law on sustainable marine coastal community tourism developed by the Environment and Tourist Committee of Parlatino. These essential territories continue to be undervalued and in many cases insufficiently protected within the national legal system. International experience is clear. The World Tourism Organization and fundamental declarations referenced in this proposal affirm that tourism must contribute to economic, social, and environmental development simultaneously. Community-based tourism, when responsibly managed, strengthens local economies, preserves cultural identity, and protects ecosystems. Sustainable tourism is not a luxury. It is a necessity for long-term prosperity. This model law provides a comprehensive legislative framework structured in 8 chapters. It addresses general provisions and institutional strengthening, land use planning and zoning, community participation and governance, integration and sustainable fisheries and aquaculture, environmental conservation and climate resilience, financing and incentive mechanisms, monitoring, evaluation, and oversight systems, phased implementation according to national capacity. One of the most significant pillars is responsible land use planning. Coastal zones must be structured through clear zoning, identifying areas sustainable to community tourism, protecting exclusion zones from high-impact activity, and allowing carefully regulated mixed-use areas that balance development and ecological integrity. This ensures that tourism growth does not exceed environmental capacity. Equally important is the emphasis on legal certainty. Communities living in marine coastal areas must benefit from harmonized regulations and define access to land and water, protect their rights, and align with principles and sustainability. For communities located within protected areas, the model law calls for adaptive mechanisms that allow sustainable economic activity without compromising conservation objectives. The law places communities at the heart of decision-making. It promotes the creation or strengthening of legally recognizing community tourism organizations and encourages member states to invest in training programs in conservation, entrepreneurship, and innovation. This ensures that local populations are not merely beneficiaries to tourism, but active managers and stakeholders. Another pillar in this integration of tourism with sustainable fisheries and aquaculture. Rather than allowing these sectors to compete, the model law promotes aligned supporting artisanal fishing traditions, sustainable catch regulation, traceability systems, geospatial monitoring, and industrial vessels, while encouraging tourism experiences and direct benefit fishing communities, like Simpson Bay. Environmental protection is woven throughout the framework. Member states are urged to adopt standardized environment criteria for tourism projects, including environmental impact assets, vessel regulations, climate resilient infrastructure standards, and strict water waste management. I'll repeat, strict water waste management. The prohibition of untreated wastewater discharge and promotion of water treatment technologies and reduce of single-use plastics are central components. I know MP West Scott will be happy to hear that. And we are still looking to see how the government is going to move forward with that proposal of their coalition partner. To support implementation, the model law proposes financing mechanisms and incentives for sustainable community tourism initiatives. These include funds for infrastructure, capacity building, ecosystem restoration, such as mangrove and coral reef rehabilitation, access to credit, and tax incentives for certified community ventures. Transparency and equity are emphasized to ensure that benefits reach organized communities rather than being captured by patronage structures. Finally, the law establishes monitoring and evaluation systems requiring measurable indicators of social, economic, and environmental impact, and promoting community participation in oversight. Implementation may occur in phases, respecting each nation's institution and boundary capacity, but the direction remains clear towards sustainability, accountability, and resilience. Honorable members, this model law offers a forward-looking regional framework that recognizes the realities of climate change, economic vulnerability, and the importance of community participation for coastal and island economies. Sustainable marine coastal tourism is not merely a sectoral concern. It is an economic security, environmental stewardship, and intergenerational responsibility. It provides us with an opportunity to align development and conservation to empower coastal communities and to safeguard our natural heritage for generations to come. I urge the government to take a look at this model law when preparing the zoning and the conservation of our marine coastal policies. Like I've mentioned before, the model law will be provided today to the Minister of TIAT and the Minister of RAMI, and together we can foster a regional model of sustainable marine coastal that advances prosperity while protecting the ecosystems upon which that prosperity depends. Thank you. Are there any questions? There are no questions. And no comments. I hereby close this agenda point. Ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the end of this meeting. Thank you for your participation, and I hereby close this meeting.